President Emmanuel Macron has been paralyzed by the failure of a flagship immigration bill that shows how difficult it will be to govern France without an absolute majority in the National Assembly. The National Assembly rejected its flagship immigration bill on Monday in a dramatic vote that caught the government by surprise. The defeat was made even more humiliating by the fact that lawmakers did not even discuss the text, but instead rejected it in a preliminary vote. The unrest has shaken the political establishment and raised questions about whether France has become ungovernable. It could mean that we are coming to the end of his mandate faster than expected, that we are entering the end of Emmanuel Macron's reign. He is running out of steam and will have more and more difficulty keeping his MPs under control, said political analyst Chloe Morin. Doubts about Macron's ability to govern France have grown since he lost last year's parliamentary elections. Although his centrist coalition remained the largest group in the National Assembly, he no longer had the absolute majority to pass laws. After initially suggesting that France would learn the art of coalition politics, the president opted for a policy of ad hoc agreements with the conservative opposition Les Républicains. The government managed to reach compromises in some agreed areas, including legislation to increase purchasing power and fight unemployment. And when that didn't work, Macron resorted to the bazooka, using a controversial constitutional maneuver that allows him to bypass parliament, for example, to pass his controversial pension reform. But the spectacular debacle over the immigration law has undermined Macron's method of government. The government is reaching the limits of its at the same time method, said Olivier Marlieix, president of the Les Républicains group in the National Assembly. The government must choose its team, he added in an interview with the LCI television channel, whether to tighten or soften the immigration law. The repercussions of Monday's vote will be felt everywhere, with opposition parties already calling for the resignation of Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin and new elections. The government's defeat on Monday was a particular shock because it has been painstakingly preparing the immigration law for months. In the wake of last year's parliamentary defeat, the deal has been postponed several times, each time raising the stakes for the Macron government. The legislation, which aims to speed up the deportation of foreigners who commit crimes on French soil and includes measures to legalize undocumented workers, was expected to win support from conservatives and left-wing centrists. But the initial stages of the debate over the immigration bill were chaotic. The legislation was toughened at first reading in the center-right dominated Senate, then softened when it reached the parliamentary committee stage of the National Assembly. However, the defeat came as a surprise. The government hoped that the conservatives would be forced to vote in favor of a bill on one of their central issues, immigration. Before the vote, Darmanin pressured the conservatives to vote in favor of the bill. "Imagine if you rejected this legislation," he warned last week. "And then a foreign criminal committed a crime. The responsibility of Les Républicains would be enormous." The government also hoped that the far-left France Insoumise and the far-right Rassemblement National would refuse to unite their votes against Macron's coalition. But on Monday his divide and conquer tactic backfired. The vote shows that, given the composition of the National Assembly, it is impossible to reach a consensus on such a controversial issue as immigration. There is a very important political failure, Morin said. For the French president, the defeat represents a rude awakening and a miserable return to internal politics by high international diplomacy. In an attempt to protect himself from the discomfort of governing without a clear majority, he had delegated mainly the day-to-day work of running the government to his Prime Minister Elisabeth Borne. But the current crisis is not something that can be ignored. Former presidents Charles de Gaulle and François Mitterrand decided to call new elections when they faced hostile or ungovernable parliaments during their terms in office. But Macron told ministers on Tuesday that the vote does not demonstrate that a replacement majority can emerge, according to a government advisor quoted by AFP. The truth is that with the rise of the far-right National Rally Party in recent months, neither Macron's Renaissance Party, the Conservatives, nor the left want to face another defeat in the polls. The French president is now desperately seeking a way out of the impasse over his immigration law. A joint parliamentary commission made up of senators and parliamentarians was tasked with finding a compromise. It is unclear how much time for negotiations would produce better results. But the pressure on Macron to react is increasing. It is difficult to imagine that General de Gaulle suffered such a defeat and did nothing, Morin said.
For more news like this across the globe, please subscribe to our channel, like and share this video. Thank you.